So I'm going to start the interiors project today. So a new project for any of you that want to have a go at that. And also just to remind you, I'm not going to be here next week. So a week's break and then back week after. And then, so that takes us into June, and there's like 3 weeks in June and 1 week in July. So it's sort of like a 4 week.
So do you still pay that as a block?
Yeah, if you have to do it, if you have to do that as a 4 week.
Finishing for the summer break in July.
I'm going to finish the summer break, so I'm going to have a summer break and then I'll come back in September, basically the first week in
So
September.
what's the dates of summer break?
So our last week will be, I don't know, something in July.
Yeah.
The first week, it's basically the first week in July.
Email it round.
Yeah, I'll email it.
Yeah,
Like that. Yeah, that's useful. Or I'll put it on a bit of paper next week.
Not
Not next week, the week after. Yep. So basically, yeah, we've got this week, then 4 weeks after I'll come back. You know, I'm not here next week. That's it. Anything else? Yeah. So on the last email, I also mentioned trips out. So if any of you are interested in, you know, maybe I'll do 1 or 2 plein air sessions. So probably with that, I've either got Mondays or Fridays, possibly some Wednesdays, but I don't know at the moment yet. I'll also probably I might do 1 or 2 around Lee or Hadley on a Thursday afternoon, just because I'm in Lee in the morning, and some of my Lee group I think we're quite interested in working outdoors. So I might do either a Lee one or a Hadley one, somewhere that's fairly close to Lee. So not going too far afield. But yeah, if you're interested, yeah, let me know and I'll plan a couple of sessions out. Should be fun. It's gone cold today, but it's been quite nice weather really. Okay, so the next project I've come up with is interiors. So if you're interested in interiors, I've got a couple of my paintings just to show you. So I'll just do it like that. So this was a painting I did fairly recently in my bedroom. I just quite like the view through the window. You know, that kind of juxtaposition with the inside and the outside. So, and playing around with just a really wide angle and slightly distorting things a bit. So that's what I've done quite recently. And then this other one is one I did on holiday a few years ago. Got kind of nice kind of, you know, window and see it again outside and inside. But I rather like interior, so that's why I picked this as a subject, because I think we haven't particularly covered interior. I thought it might be quite an interesting thing to explore. I've got various, I'll show you a few interior images in the book. So as we've been looking at the masters, I had quite a lot of books out already. So Matisse, you know, Matisse did a lot of paintings with kind of models in interiors. They're, you know, very bright and colourful and kind of lovely shapes and things like that. So that, and quite sort of ornamental, really, quite patterned. He was quite interested in interiors and patterns and juxtaposing one pattern against another, looking at model. So he's somebody you might want to have a look at. I think looking at my Degas book, and pretty much all of the Degas book, all the Degas were interiors. He was very much a painter of interiors, apart from a few paintings of horses, mostly, you know, what I could find as interiors. So these would be like the classic ones with the ballet dancers. But he also did a lot of things with people just doing their thing. Like this one, it's as much about the ballet dancers as the one reading the newspaper in this one, which I thought was interesting. And then I've got another book here. I quite like that one with the kind of milliners, the hat makers, or hat sellers, milliners. So again, they're quite nice, almost like sort of quite domestic scenes, really, just ordinary life, which I find quite appealing. I quite like painting ordinary things that are just going on. So that, I thought he's an interesting person to look at. Bonnard is another person that you might want to have a look at. He was a kind of post-impressionist. So a lot of his paintings, so that's that same one again, he used his wife as a model a lot. So he used to do lots of little sketches, and then he sketched all the interiors and then put a painting together from those. So the colours are very much imaginary colours, I think. He really suits that colour. And when you see photos of his house, it wasn't that bright at all, really. But he certainly put a lot of kind of interesting colours in there. So yeah, quite nice sort of arrangements, quite wide angles as well. He took quite big spaces in. So he's somebody to look at. Another somebody real favourite of mine was Edward Hopper. So I'm always been very keen on his work. And again, sort of fairly ordinary domestic scenes. You know, a couple in a room, you know, chap looking out the window, just you know, moments in time really. And you can see here the sketches he's made to develop these into a painting. His paintings were quite sort of imaginary places. He'd use different elements of different rooms and then pose models, or I think he used to get his wife to pose, and perhaps he'd do some posing too, to get the different stances. But quite often there were things he might have glimpsed as he was out and about, and then he'd recreate that in the form of a painting. So these are quite sort of again, yeah, ordinary scenes, you know, people, you know, in spaces, that sort of thing. So there's books down here if you want to have a look at those for a bit of inspiration. I've got various photographs here. The ones that I think are slightly the easier ones are these ones where sort of fairly square onto the main objects in the rooms. So they're more down this end. And then going towards this end was this one with people in. I was thinking like a tube. I took that one. I've been doing a bit of sketching on the tube, and I thought, well, I'll take a quick photo to see if I can develop my sketch into something. I never did get around to it, but you know, they're all interior spaces, but with figures. And obviously some more complicated than others. I know that Terry's interested in this. This was in inside of the museum. One, two of these photos, I've sort of stitched together a couple of photos to get a wider view. So that's why it's a rather, you know, unusual shape, that one. Right, so for the demo, I thought I would use this one. Again, it's one of the simpler ones. And this was a kitchen at somewhere we stayed on holiday. The way I tend to start out is really, I've made a few marks here just to plan out where the different bits are going to be. So just getting the spacing right to start with. And I tend to do that perhaps quite lightly. So I'm thinking the flowers can be somewhere in there, perhaps the jug about here, and here, and probably the table up to about that sort of height. But once I've got that, I can then go in with a darker mark, something that you can see, and just starting with a smaller shape. So this, I'll perhaps start with the flowers here, just get in the middle of that one. And if this would be suitable for oils or acrylics. So I don't feel like I've got to get all the shapes absolutely perfect at this stage, because I can change the drawing a bit as I go along. That can be quite a biggish flower there. There's another one here. And perhaps bring that one back in a little bit. I think it might be better here, and almost like I could do with something here too. So I'll make one up there. And then working my way down the shape of the jug. So drawing jugs, sometimes just drawing the line through the middle helps. Get the neck to there. So that's fairly parallel. And then a handle. I'll make the handle come out this side, I think. So again, this one's slightly end on, but you know, as you popping your subject down, make changes that make it a stronger image, really. So I'll try that there. I think you have the table up to about there, maybe try a bit lower. Bring the table to there. And then working my way up, I think maybe one of the chairs here. Again, I'm just roughing in for a minute. Maybe make that one a bit further over. There's quite a lot of junk there that I'm going to ignore. That's my painting gear, I think. And then the fireplace will take up to that sort of height. I think I'll have that sort of framing the view of the flowers, so I'm making that a little bit more central. Right down to there. chair there. And then the thicker bit of the mantelpiece in here. Measure that so I get the same width. I've got another little painting I did at the time where I was sort of standing over here doing the view that way, so I'll bring that one in another week just to show you that. And then that's it. We've got a couple of candelabras. I'll just make a couple of marks for the time being because bigger painting I can draw the shapes of those in better with the paint rather than try and fill it in. I'm thinking this mirror, I wondered if that would look better if it was just slightly raised up. So again, I'm going to draw that like that. So rather than absolutely copy it exactly as it is in the photo, I wondered about the backs of these chairs, if they were slightly angled out to each other. Maybe bring this one over a little bit more so we haven't got exactly the same spacing. And I think they're slightly different backs of the chairs anyway, so it'd be quite nice to have a little bit of variety there. Let's bring that a bit higher. And they can just kind of drift off, and probably end it about there and there. There are a couple of cupboards here, so that's the cupboards. I'm going to raise that one up a little bit. And then there's a door here, so this door can come off at a little bit of an angle. So that would probably be enough, drawing out. And then, maybe another session I'll build a little bit of colour into that, either acrylics or oils or something like that. But just want to show that you don't have to absolutely keep everything exactly, as long as it looks like a believable room, really. That's the main thing. Feel free to make changes. I was wondering about the light. I'm not sure if I like that. I quite like that bit of light. One of the students this morning really liked that. I wonder if that is a bit distracting. Maybe I might tone that down a little bit or blur it out and just have the focus on here. So it's about trying to sort of design your painting and think where you want the focal points to be. Is that okay? So as I say, if you wanted any of these images, you've got to use these. I can always print up some more for another session, and then we can